Yo, what is going on? It's Matthew back with a Grad Log 4, I think. I haven't made one of these in a while, and in part just because life gets busy. I feel like I tried to do updates as often as I can, and then, suddenly I'm doing a bunch of coursework and travel home on like what we call reading break, where you get a break from classes. And then before you know it, you're doing your exams, whatever, and then you kind of lose track of time. You can't always have time to do an update because even doing an update takes time, frankly. But here I have about 1 month left of classes, and I'm quite excited about that. The other day I wrote what believe is to be my last exam that I'll ever write in my academic journey, unless I maybe do some other school. But the way that my master's is set up, I'm doing electrical engineering, is that there's a course component and a research component. And of course, when we talk about a master's thesis, there's the research component is that thesis, but a lot of universities require you to do some courses as well. And my prof in particular basically said, just get all your courses out at the outset. They're done at the outset. And then once you complete those, you can start doing your research kind of full time. That kind of makes sense to me. Otherwise, you're kind of distracted with your courses, and the courses can actually, frankly, teach you stuff that's useful. And useful they have been for me. My thesis is on some sort of MRI coil design, and I have a course on MRIs, and that has been unbelievable. Learning all there is to know about MRIs. Of course, it's nothing. It's not. I'm not like an expert at it, but it's definitely a pretty good introductory to MRIs. And what an unbelievable concept MRIs are. It is bewildering to me that they even work and humans have devised it to work. It basically relies on a hydrogen atom, or protons you can call it, and just how much they spin, or at what frequencies they process at, they spin. I guess that's the easiest way to put it. And from that you can image a brain. Crazy. I'm also doing deep learning, and that's really been good because I feel I've been this whole AI sphere of the world moves so fast, and I think it's been tremendously useful just to kind of understand the fundamentals of where it started. And so I'm able to kind of filter out the noise and kind of understand, it's oh, is this actually important or not? Because you start to understand the field a bit more because you know the terminology and how different things are derived and whatnot. And I thought that has been very, very, very helpful. Just even to learn the full utilization of the different networks formations, like this CNNs, RNNs, although RNNs are older now, LSTMs, fully connected networks, just the idea behind them all. I think one of the most interesting pieces of knowledge that I gained from the course is that the different layers, it's apparent when you learn them, but you don't really get it till someone tells you it. I would say is just imagine a fully connected network. I don't know if you're in machine learning or whatever, or you know anything about this, but in a machine learning network, or a neural network, I should say, you have a layer of neurons, layer of neurons, layer of neurons, layer of neurons, and some output over here. The most interesting thing that I kind of came to appreciate about neural nets is that each layer in the neural net is effectively something called an embedding. And an embedding is nothing but a representation of data from the previous layer. So suppose you have your input layer and then you have like a bit smaller one. You're learning how to project this. It's not exactly correct, but you're basically like trying to find a very good representation of this kind of data in a much smaller size. I don't know, it's not really important to this update, but I just think it's really cool to kind of learn some really cool, I'll keep saying that, concepts. And then I'm also in like an optimization course, which involves a lot more hardcore mathematical rigor. And I think that's also very important to learn. I think I mentioned it before in a different update, how everything is optimization at the end. And it truly is. But just kind of understanding it more so from a mathematical formulation sense. I have to do some sort of literature review for final project on that, and I think it'll be quite cool. But I don't know, like, where did the time go? Suddenly I started, and now I am finishing my courses, and then soon I will only have a thesis component to work on, and it's unbelievable how fast time actually marches. But frankly, I'm quite excited just to only be focusing on research, as courses honestly take up so much time, and I think I haven't fully like appreciated what it's like not to have courses to do. I mean, like, so much of my time, even before this year, has been spent, like, even in my bachelor's, like, doing courses, and like, I don't really know what it's like to not have some sort of impending future deadline for something, some arbitrary deadline that you're forced to submit to. I don't know what it's like not to have that. Of course, like a thesis, there's a big deadline in that, but it's not like it's like an every week thing that you have to work towards. Like, you will be researching towards, but you don't have to get something formally set up to submit every week. And I think that is where it takes a lot of like brain power, is just managing your deadlines, and it's an important skill to learn, don't get me wrong, but I'm just looking forward to kind of being more unconstrained a little bit, and kind of letting me do research just naturally. I tend to like something I'm excited about is when I'm reading all the research, just kind of just thinking about it on my walks, and just like problem solving in the shower. Like, that's the types of things that I love to do. And if I have only one problem and I'm focused on, like, I think that'll be really cool to be able to like do. Because I've done that with like my math courses and stuff, where you get so immersed in it, and then on like one problem, and then you're like constantly thinking about it. But it would be cool to have that sustained for a much longer period of time, such with the thesis. Or like, I don't know, you're just chewing on this kind of problem for a couple months, like 6, 8, whatever months. And just the learning that you get from it. Like, it's going to be annoying, but I truly think it's going to teach me a lot about just how to conduct good research, especially because like I'll be working in a lab with 2 postdoc students who are effectively, one of them is like expert in MRI design, and then one of them is like expert in electromagnetics. So like, sheesh, the amount of knowledge that I could get passed on from these individuals, I'm very excited for, and I'm ready to ask some questions. I love learning, and I think I'm just set up and I'm ready to do some research. Like, that's why I was doing this master's, and that's why I'm getting these courses done, if that makes sense. I tried to do some projects on the side while doing my courses, but honestly, in the long run, it's just unsustainable because of how dynamic you have to be to hand in your deadlines for assignments. You can't really get some sort of consistent schedule. Of course, you can kind of try to be adaptable, but it's just, it doesn't really work that way. But when I do my thesis, like research, I think it'll be nice for me to have like kind of a smaller project on the side that I'm working towards, to kind of like, with some of my free, maybe something more creative. I mean, but the research is quite creative, but potentially like, I don't know, just like a different medium to let my brain rest from the thesis work instead of constantly focusing on it, because it is frankly very important that I've also learned to take breaks. And I think this is a good transition into like the fitness world. I mean, my last video, I was talking about how my knee is healed or whatnot. And to be honest, like, it took like 3 weeks after that video for it to, or 2 weeks, I don't know how long it's been after that video, to really start feeling better. And I just, from that injury, I honestly learned that sustainability is probably one of the most important things to aspire towards if you're trying to achieve anything. Like in the long run, like if you just have short-term bursts, you can get it done, but then you feel burnt out and you want to take a break. But if you're able to be sustainable with something, you'll probably never want to take a break, especially if it's something that you're interested in. Like, if I have a project that I'm not killing, like working super hard at every single day and really like taking up all my time, like pushing myself to for an arbitrary deadline, like, yeah, I will get it done, but then certainly I probably would feel some sort of burnout. And with my knee, for instance, running, like I was going very hard for quite a while, and I wasn't taking the precautionary measures, i.e., I was not working out my hip muscles or strengthening them, or my glute muscles, to properly take the load off my knee, which led to my knee breaking down and like being injured. But had I taken the proper steps, have taken proper care, I guess this is a good analogy. Like, you can kind of go as hard as you want, but you have to make sure you're taking good care of yourself. So like, I can push myself kind of as hard as I want running, but I have to make sure I'm getting adequate rest in between runs, adequate sleep, so like recovery, and like I'm adequately strengthening my muscles so that my knee doesn't break down and implode. And I think with school or like anything as well, like it's hard to hit the sustainability approach with like courses, but I think you can, I'm imagining you can kind of hit a stride. If you can hit a stride early enough in your thesis where you're kind of working on it consistently, maybe surely at the end, maybe there's still crunch time, but like work on it consistently, you'll and you're taking like good breaks from maybe pivoting to a different project, and you're kind of taking breaks from it. Like I think you're gonna feel that thesis well done. And maybe I'll look back on this and be like, that was foolish. But I mean, right now I've never done a thesis yet. That's just my idea. I've done lots of research, and I think that's like an approach that I definitely have like taken is like breaks. Breaks are really important. But yeah, I have a couple notes that I have written down. So there's been something I've been struggling with though as of late, and I think it's quite interesting. And I think it comes with the age of like 24, like I'm 24 turning like 25, where I'm just kind of pondering what my future has in store for me. And I know that kind of sounds foolish at first thought, because it's like, oh, well, you're studying to be some electrical engineer, expertise in like MRI, but I don't know if that's like something I truly want to do. It for sure interests me. There's so much stuff that interests me, and that could be the problem. I just don't have it in me to find something where I can just like commit to. And that's where I think it's like my age, where it's like I am at that age where you're kind of pondering the meaning of it all and what your purpose is, and trying to solidify into one, which is why it's important, I know, to like try a couple new things. And I'm not going to have the answer right now of what I should do with my life. I think the best answer that you can give yourself is like, I've my decision making framework that I thought of is just basically like, if a decision does not subtract from your life, then it's a good decision. Like, you don't have to optimize for everything, but like I'm struggling to like take that advice into after my school is done, because now it's like full open. Like, I don't have that constraint of school keeping me there, you know? So that's something I've been wrestling with. And today I had a great big walk. It was about 4 hours. I was walking, reading a book, and like reading a book on and off, and honestly just like sky gazing on the back of a picnic table. It was actually quite beautiful, listening to like the birds and stuff. And the book I was reading, I don't exactly remember the name, but it was like a mix between poetry and science. And it's written by this astrophysics professor, a researcher, in like 1993. And he had just had this perspective on the world that I feel actually like quite strongly with. He was talking about how there's this tension between science and the world, where it's like the more science that you learn, the supposedly more you understand the world. But then there's also like the less you potentially appreciate the beauty of it all. And also, I think there's an underlying tone of like, the more science you know, the less you actually understand about the world. And maybe you've heard that before, because I think that is pretty common sentiment. Because you propose one question, you get an answer, but then it produces like 10 other questions. So science is like this never-ending struggle with understanding the world. And like at the end of the day, you're just this finite human being with a brain, and you're just trying to make sense of it all using science as your toolbox. And like on one hand, that's admirable, and on the other, it's like absurd. Because like I don't think you'll ever be able to fully understand it. So it's very admirable to kind of go up against all odds. But like, I feel like it's almost easier to just not, like not understand. Because then like the idea of ignorance is bliss, like you kind of do stop and appreciate the beauty more. And I always smell the roses and like see the bird chirp and kind of embody more of a spiritual existence on the world. Because I think like definitely a lot of science people probably have quite haunted worlds where they're very, I don't know, is jaded the right word? Like it's just, everything is so like clear cut for them. But it's nice to have the perspective ever so often of like, no, like the world is still like, there's beauty in it all, and it doesn't have to be fully described by math and science. And I don't know if that's the exact sentiment this author was going for, but and I've thought about this stuff too. I'm not just like verbatim reading the book to you, but the author like definitely has some flavors of that. And like where was I going with that? Yeah, and that's actually a thought I had before of like, okay, so you have, I don't know, it's just the idea of like, what if science actually can't explain everything? And I don't know, like I honestly believe that it can't explain everything. And I say that not because I don't believe in like the logical structure of like observation and stuff. I just say that because physics is a function of our own human lived experience. Like how physics can only basically describe how humans in the universe experience it. Because if we had any, like, suppose that our eyes or ears or any of our senses interacted with the world slightly differently, a lot of our theories about the world would also probably be slightly different, which would lead us to slightly different questions, which would lead us to slightly different answers encoded slightly differently. And who's to say what senses humans lack and what theories and questions we cannot even propose? Like, we're just bounded by our own ability to like sense around us, frankly. So why do we give so much certainty to the idea of physics, you know? And why not more to just like accepting the absurdity because it's absurd? And like learning to be okay with that. And that's the tension that I have in life, is like, and also for like my future that I've been experiencing, is like, I can keep going down this path of like understanding, building stuff, doing, and like kind of the treadmill of things. But then like something in me really wants me to just take a break. And I like camping, and like I would happily live in a van, for instance, for a year and travel around Canada. But like and like maybe that's good for me because I've had so much dosages of this that like I should get some exposure to like the slowing down and just appreciating existence for what it is, and not worrying about having to put numbers to everything to only partially create something to be helpful for it. Like, this side's an infinite treadmill, this side you can hop off of it. Meditation's a great example. Our entire life is an infinite treadmill, or we can choose to basically just hop off the infinite treadmill and just sit down and meditate. And like, it's a common theme, even in like, I might have talked about that already, but like even in like the grind set, you know, like there's the people that grind hard and work and like are like, the only purpose I have is when I push hard and push and push and push. But then there's also like what's wrong with literally sitting by a creek and enjoying it? Nothing, because you're part of the human experience. Like, what's wrong with that? And it's like, there's these two, I don't know how to label them even, like, because all that stuff on this side is like the same essence in the science of like pushing to understand. And then there's like, I guess more of like an indigenous approach where you just have like more of a spiritual appreciation for the land. And I don't know, I probably should take a break to explore some of those thoughts after my master's, because clearly I have them. And just kind of like learn how to uncover the beauty in the world for what it is. Like, I don't know. It's a dilemma of sorts, you know? It is a dilemma. But that's just all like the human condition, you know? Like, we are not designed to fully understand. And we kind of have to almost like learn to be okay with that, you know? Which I think is something beautiful in itself. That we're so aware that we have some sort of existential crisis, but then we are become okay with having an existential crisis. Like, it's such a bizarre experience being a human, you know. Yeah. So I'm sure so many of you also have those thoughts, and I'm sure future Matthew listening to this, you continue to have these thoughts, because this is not something that goes away. You just have to learn to enjoy it and like leverage it. But man, in terms of like summer coming up, I'm very excited to get camping, and I really want to do some ultra marathons one day, but just some good trail running marathons in around in some like more hilly mountainous regions around my area, because that just excites me so much. And to go camping a lot with some of the friends I met, and I don't know, just so excited for that. The seasons changing definitely make you appreciate. I feel like they induce gratefulness in you, because when it's winter for a while and you're someone that likes to do winter activities, you're like, I'm grateful for the winter. This is awesome. But then you maybe hate the cold, and then winter ends and then summer starts, and then you are like, I love the warmth. I love doing all this stuff outside. Oh, but it gets really hot. I hate the heat. I can't wait to be a bit colder. And then I like the cycle. You know, it's actually quite nice to have the variety. I think it makes life a lot more interesting. And yeah. Also, that's crazy. That looks like a face. It's not a face. It's like literally a flower. But yeah. I've been Matthew. This is my vlog. My banana bread is ready in a minute and 28 seconds. So this is actually great timing, because I'm about to go chow down some banana bread. But I'll be making another grad vlog relatively soon, and with some more ponder thoughts to go with it, surely. Signing off.